Now you see Joe Rogan acting like he is supporting Trump in the ICE race. And a while ago he was talking shit about Trump and everything what he's doing. Joe Rogan is a two-faced, idiotic fool. Okay? He's two-faced. One minute he's supporting Trump, next minute he's stabbing Trump in the back. Next minute he's supporting Trump, next minute he's stabbing him in the back. He can't make up his mind. But let's get to the video, shall we?
But unfortunately, the Democrats went too far to the left, and the Republicans moved into their position that the Democrats were 40 years ago. See, and so what the Democrats believed 40 years ago, the Republicans believe today. And so I realized that I had to go to a Republican because the Democrats just got too far off the trail. They just got completely off the trail and lost all reality of what America stood for. And so I realized that Republicans at this point in time are more focused on what is best for America than what the Democrats are.
See something that said, take a look what happened. We will make America proud again. You try to. We will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Yeah, what's up with you, Chuck? I tell you, the Joe Rogan podcast posted that clip there yesterday, and it broke the internet. But man, you just can't make this. So what does it say? For Trump for 10 years, promising mass deportations, Joe Rogan after supporting Trump. We don't want armed men taking people. Actually, Rogan, we do. If you are here illegally, you are a criminal, and we want armed men to send you back to your country. And as y'all know, Joe Rogan has broke the internet. Some of y'all might come on here and say the hell with Joe Rogan. Some of y'all might love Joe Rogan. Let me know in the comments. But lately he's been getting a lot of backlash from the ones on the left and the right. And the ones on the left are simply just, hate the man because he came out and supported President Trump. He endorsed President Trump this past election. And we know
the sun to cool the earth.
We know the ins and outs, of everything that's led us up to this moment. But also these viral clips he's been having lately. We'll play some, and then we'll get into the special part of today's show.
Then they start showing up at Home Depot. Instead of looking for gangbangers, looking for criminals and cartel members, they go to whatever's easiest pickings so they can get numbers up. There's do you know Ed Calderon? Do you know who he is? He worked. He was a Mexican military guy who now is an American citizen, but he reports extensively on the cartels, and just was telling me some horror stories about ICE raids. And one of them was they took this guy who had been brought over here when he was a baby, but didn't have American citizenship. His family, came over here illegally, lived here for 20 years, can't speak Spanish. They deport him, send him to Tijuana. Can't speak Spanish. Does not speak Spanish. He is essentially an American citizen. He just never lived anywhere else. He just doesn't have the paperwork. He's not a criminal. They sent him over to Tijuana, and now he has to live in Mexico. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. He's on the streets. Has no idea. He doesn't have any money.
Who we are.
Yeah.
This.
Oh, hell, Bill Maher. I want to play this clip because the Joe Rogan podcast posted this.
So just so much of this shaming. A lot of it, people wonder why so many young men vote for Trump. Well, maybe because, he's the one guy who doesn't make you feel guilty just for being born with a dick. It's true. It's a lot of his appeal. They make you feel, a lot of, not me, I'm old enough to remember when it was the reverse, so I get the backlash. It was like to be born without a dick. If you're that I don't remember. But if you're 22 years old, if you're 22, you don't remember a time when it was the reverse. So you've only seen the backlash. You've only seen white men bad.
What do y'all think of that? But this is the other viral clip.
Roaming around, snatching people up. You don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
And this is what set everybody off when Joe Rogan said that. Gestapo! Oh boy. You know, and that is going viral with the governor of Minnesota right now as well, too. Mr. Tim Walz. But that brings us to this part of the show I wanted to get into. Joe Rogan loses it on air reacting to Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz's wicked behavior. For my brother Wise.
There's so much money missing. It's in the billions now. It's bigger than the entire GDP of Somalia, just from Minnesota, allegedly.
Wild.
The entire GDP of a country, one state's fraud, is supposedly over the course of, X amount of days that they did this.
And is it true that the guy that uncovered it was kind of like some guy? Like it was
This
like a
Nick Shirley kid?
Yeah, this like
Young
internet.
kid, yeah.
Good for him.
I'm so exhausted in trying to ask what any of this, information has led to you finding any criminals that you have indicted that explains why you are wasting so much of our taxpayer resources and also terrorizing our communities in the amount of federal law enforcement agents that you have in the streets of our city and our state. There needs to be some sort of justification.
If you thought the fraud was limited to the Somalis and to the Minnesota government, you were wrong. I'm about to blow your mind because it goes to the government as well. And first, let me explain to you that there is a law that your cash can be confiscated by a law enforcement officer, federal, state, doesn't matter. If you're driving in your car, let's say, and you've got $5,000, you're going to buy something and you're paying cash, and you get pulled over, and the cop sees the cash sitting on the side seat next to you and asks what it's for. He doesn't like your answer. He can confiscate that cash. So keep that in mind. They've got the discretion to do that. So now imagine this. You're working at the TSA in Minneapolis, and every single day, not once, not twice, every single day, nonstop, there is a Somali courier that's coming in with luggage, and in that luggage is $1 million. $1 million every day. Somali's going, he's declaring it, saying I'm pulling it out, and the TSA says nothing. Doesn't stop them, doesn't confiscate it like they would your money if you were driving in a car and a cop didn't like what you had to say. Every single day. Shooting out overseas. Now keep in mind that in Somalia, the number one industry in Somalia is a tie between livestock and money remittances. Remittances meaning the money that's coming from Joey Somali, sending it over to Al-Shabaab, the terrorist network. That is their top way of getting money in the country of Somalia. Now, to add insult to injury, Senator Joni Ernst just told the story about how it is that Ilhan Omar earmarked $1 million in a spending bill. She wanted the $1 million for a substance abuse clinic. Now here's the kicker. That abuse clinic in Minneapolis was located inside of a restaurant. And the operators of that restaurant all register their IRS forms under one home address. Folks, we're getting stolen from, and all we're getting is BS hearings. The Trump administration must keep people accountable. Next.
With Ilhan Omar, who actually she wrote the legislation that allowed for COVID funds to go to places like Feeding Our Future and all of the Somali daycares. She wrote the bill. She wrote the bill without guidelines. She's the one who, and then she goes on national TV and says, well, the problem is that you have no guidelines on the money. You wrote the bill. And so she wrote it without guidelines, and then I believe, this is alleged, this is my opinion, she actively recruited and educated her Somali compatriots how to game the system, knowing that they had a fraudulent governor in Tim Walz who was going to turn a blind eye or actively participate, at which he did, because he persecuted the whistleblowers. Anybody who blew a whistle on this fraud, if they were a government employee, they lost their job, they lost their pension, they were followed by police, they had CPS show up at their house. This is $9 billion worth of money that has gone, yes, to, big houses and fancy cars, but hundreds of millions, if not billions of it, has been transmitted out of the country to Al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist organization. And again, this comes back to the abject failure of the DOJ. Now, I'll give them a pass on this one because we haven't seen the end of this. Because Bessent said, one of the best news I saw about a week and a half ago was Bessent got up and said, I'm investigating. The Treasury is investigating the money. We're going to track it. We're going to know where every dollar went. When that happens, if the DOJ does not arrest hundreds of people, not on fraud charges, but on terrorism charges, they need to bring the FBI, they need to bring Homeland, and they need to start prosecuting people for aiding and abetting or financing terrorism under, as much as I hate the Patriot Act, they need to be prosecuting them under the Patriot Act. And these people need to go to prison for life or need to be renditioned to Guantanamo. Because that's what this is, an ongoing criminal enterprise to fund terrorism. And Ilhan Omar is complicit, in my opinion. Tim Walz is complicit, in my opinion. Attorney General of Minnesota is complicit, in my opinion. This goes way deeper than any of that. And Ilhan Omar, I believe, is up trying to cover her tracks. Because, yes, she's been fronting for this thing from the beginning.
Yes.
And when she talks about, there's been no prosecution, what are you talking about? There's been at least 87 people indicted and prosecuted for this thing, of which 78 of them are Somalis. This was started and run out of the Somali community for the specific act of getting rich and funding Al-Shabaab, and they all need to go to prison for an extended period of time, in my opinion.
No pushback from me, Dave. I'll give you the next word, but I want to say this. These fools are out there driving Lamborghinis in the snow. This is crazy.
Wise, that man was picked over Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro to be, if Kamala had been elected, a heartbeat away from the Oval Office. This is a man who let the Twin Cities burn after George Floyd was killed. And
like we said many times,
also, this is a man who thinks that boys can be girls, and because they can be girls, then they need to have tampons in their bathroom because they have such a strong, if the Christian community had such a belief that they can make a biological boy menstruate, man, listen, there would be a revival all across this country. If we had that, that goes beyond a mustard seed. That's the entire French's mustard factory of belief. Because you're born a boy, but you need tampons in the boys' bathroom because you identify as a girl. I need to start identifying as Elon Musk's replacement so I can get his money back. This is absolute insanity. Right. And what kills me, and this is coming from a person that does crisis management, public relations, marketing, it's not that they created a crisis with this Renee Good, say her name, nonsensical stuff. And it's tragic that that woman lost her life. But aside from this morning, I ain't hear nobody talk about these Somalians, these daycares with no children, these non-emergency medical transport companies that with vehicles that never move, these healthcare in-home medical aid companies that have absolutely no clients, but the millions are being funded, and we keep stopping at the Somalis and not looking at the white liberals, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only, who are probably behind this slush fund money laundering, which doesn't just go to Al-Shabaab, it also goes to Bobby and Sarah and Becky and Chris, not that Chris, but generally speaking. So at what point do we not get outraged about that? Where are the marches in the streets for the money that has been pilfered from the tax-paying Americans? And how come it's so interesting that just last week Tim Walz says he's not going to seek re-election, mainly due to all of the scandal, and now because this woman decides to run or bump into or impede or block an ICE officer and she gets pum, we're not talking about that anymore. We're also not talking about the fact that Tampon Tim, Coach Tim, I understand white guys. I have yet to meet a white man with control of his gonads who thinks that Tim Walz is a good representation of them. Why did he take out the Minnesota flag and replace it with a Somali flag? So, oh, that's better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I thought we were in America.
Come on.
So, who are we serving here? And I want anybody who is talking about, oh, well, you know, Dave just dragging him because he don't like Kamala. I like Kamala more than y'all did because when she was running in 2020 for president, I donated to her. You know why she dropped out from running for president before Iowa? Because the 92%, all the ski wee and perm, all the HBCU grads, all the sister girls that really wanted to break the glass ceiling and see a black woman in position didn't give her a dime. So now we got that out of the way. Can we get back to the facts that this is a slush fund Ponzi scheme? And if it was any place else, they would be dragging these morons into a courtroom in chains. And it would be televised bigger than the OJ trial. But because it's Minnesota, don't you know? We're not saying anything. Man, y'all need to sit down and go somewhere.
You know, this is exactly why we have to have a wholesale abandonment of the nanny state. Wherever you have big government, corruption is always tethered to it. The founders knew it. This is why they limited the authority of government, and they enumerated only 19 areas in which the federal government and governments were to function. And what you have now in places like Minnesota, and we all suspect, and hopefully will be proven correct, that Minnesota is just the tip of the spear, but it is there is more out there than that. This level of blatant kind of disregard. Whoever thought you could put money in a suitcase and go on a plane and fly with $1 million cash dollars in single bills like you know you go into the Somali strip club? This is insane that they have allowed this kind of stuff. They're going to go to Somalia and make it rain all over the terrorist groups. This is absolutely insane. And the only reason we are able to do this is because we have persons in leadership like Tim Walz, like Mayor Frey, like Ilhan Omar, who are seated in their positions at all points, blocking any type of accountability, providing every kind of explanation and diversion so that the people can't see it. So I'm going to be like Mr. Denzel. I'm back on my high horse, and I'm saying the way out of this is exposure.
That's right.
The Trump administration, the federal government, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel they're running, trying to seal up leaks in the floor, and there are too many leaks to seal. That may be true. I don't know. However, again, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. They must be exposed. They must be exposed. When you expose them, you will automatically stop this corruption, or at least limit its ability to function at the mass, grand scale in which it is, because there'll be no place for them to hide. People will see these couriers coming in with these boatloads and suitcases of money and ask themselves, well, wait, where is this going? And Americans will begin to become infuriated that this is how they are being abused by their own leadership. It is one thing for people outside of the country to have feelings towards the America. It is another thing for your neighbors, your friends, the people you have elected to be the ones to tell you it's time to bend over and take the beating and take the punishment. This is absolutely insane, but it is our fault. We are going to, unfortunately, if we cannot depend on our government to expose them, we are going to have to all go the Nick Shirley route ourselves in our own municipalities where we live, where we know where the dirt is going on and we know what rock to kick over. We're going to have to shine the light and say, see here, these people cannot be left to do their dirt. They are intent on bankrupting this country.